AGI House on a beautiful Saturday. Both Yutori, Devi, and Yutori, Dhruv, thank you guys so much for being here, being our panelist speaker, and obviously judging for us. Can we please take a few minutes so you can give an introduction about yourself and, of course, of Scouts by Yutori as well?
Yeah, I can go. My name is Devi. I've been working in AI for about 20 years now. My background was in computer vision. Over time, I started getting interested in seeing if we can find ways in which people can interact with these systems more naturally. So that's what drew me to multimodal AI, that intersection of vision and language. So things like, can we answer questions about images? Can we describe images in sentences? All of this was definitely pre-LLMs, but also pre-deep learning. So models weren't really very good at any of these things, but it was still kind of fun to tinker at the boundaries of what's possible. Over time, I started getting interested in how we can use AI as a tool for enhancing human creative expression. And that's how I got involved in generative models for images, videos, other modalities like that. I was in academia for a while, faculty at Virginia Tech and then Georgia Tech. And then I was at Meta for about 8 years, first in FAIR, the Fundamental AI Research Organization, for about 5 years or so. And then in Gen AI, where I was a senior director leading the multimodal research efforts. So models like emo video, emo edit for image and video generation, the multimodal capabilities in Llama 3, all of those were coming from my teams. And then a couple of years ago, my co-founders and I, we left Meta to start Yutori.
Awesome. Love to hear a little bit about you, Dhruv, as well.
Sure. My name is Dhruv Batra, also an AI researcher. So Devi and I, professional backgrounds, both sound quite similar, and that's because we're, in addition to being co-founders, also married. And so for the last 20 years, we've kind of been following each other around in our professional conference. I was also a professor at Georgia Tech, most recently also a senior director at Meta, leading FAIR embodied AI. Embodied AI is AI for smart glasses and AI for robotics. So at FAIR, my teams were doing everything from egocentric computer vision models that are answering questions about images, but taken from a human glass wearer's perspective. That team built the first version of the image question answering model that shipped on Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses. To teams doing building 3D simulators so that we can train virtual robots in simulation, deploying them on the Boston Dynamics Spot robot. It's like a dog-shaped robot with an arm attachment on the top. That team in 2023 or 2024 had taken that robot to the White House Correspondents' Dinner in DC to show it to congressional staffers. So it's a new house. The robot has never seen that before. You walk up to it, you give it instructions in language, it goes and picks an object up and brings it back to you. I'm easily nerd-sliked, and I've worked in chatbots, object detection, robotics, and it's just been a journey over the last 20 years.
Wow, that's so interesting. And how did your guys' work in both the multimodal vision and also robotics, kind of the hardware, really motivated you guys to start this agentic startup? And, please let us know a little bit more about Yutori. How did that motivate you guys and inspire you guys to start and tackle this problem in today's world?
Take a look at that.
Yeah, I can talk about Yutori, and then you can talk about the connection with embodied. Yeah. But at Yutori, we're sort of the vision here is that we shouldn't have to click around buttons and fill out forms on web pages. That the way we interact with the web is going to be at one higher level in the abstraction, where you just kind of describe what it is that you're trying to get done, and these sort of team of agents in the background in parallel can start making progress towards that. If the task is sort of well defined, it can just sort of autonomously complete that task. In other cases, it can make some progress till it sort of needs your input, but it can still sort of be helpful towards the thing that you're trying to get done. And so that's what we're going after. We're building web agents, so that a lot of the mundane things are taken care of for you, and you can focus on the things that are meaningful for you.
Yeah. And the connection to embodied AI and robotics is we draw a lot of inspiration. So all three of us, two of us and our third co-founder who isn't here, we've done a lot of work in building agents, digital agents, physical agents. Our third co-founder, he was my PhD student 10 years ago, but all three of us have worked together. His PhD thesis was on building agents that can see, talk, and act. He was building, his PhD was 2020. There was, runners-up for the ACM Dissertation Award, which is amongst all CS PhDs awarded that year, all AI PhDs awarded that year. Noam Brown, I think, was the winner that year, and well deserved. But agents back then meant digital assistants, maybe virtual robots, and so on. LLMs hadn't arrived. But over the years, what we saw happening to the field, and I, particularly since I was working on robotics, I saw that the physical space moves a lot slower. There just are longer iteration cycles, whereas the digital space, because it's purely digital, can move a lot faster. But we were in a unique moment in 2024 where I felt, that there's no possible future in which digital assistants have arrived, but physical assistants have arrived, but digital assistants have not. And B, in 2024, we were seeing glimpses of agentic behavior, but it was not the case that you could hand off tasks to agents. What we today consider coding agents weren't the same in 24. What we're seeing today from agents that can, do checkouts and buying things for you, that was absolutely not the case. When we started, the first few models we built had a horizon of maybe 5 button clicks on a browser before they went astray. But it felt like the right horizon. On the next 3-4 year horizon, it felt that that would mature much faster. We could take all of the same intuitions because I think of these as robots operating on the web. The web is a purely digital space. It means your actions are less costly, even though there are costs associated. If you accidentally buy something for a user, that's a mistake. That costs real money. Robotics right now is struggling because you have 2 basic avenues. You either hire human annotators to show you demonstrations, or you build simulators. And they both are problems that don't scale very easily. Simulators, RL agents end up exploiting imperfections of the simulation. Human demonstrations, you just have to hire armies of people, and it doesn't scale that easily. The web is a purely digital space. It's really easy to simulate. Creating clones of websites is easy. The center-to-real gap is lower. The real web is right there. You can actually operate. You can send out your agents to act on the web, and you can, we can talk more about that if you want. So both of those, it felt like it was much closer, but not here yet. But like an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, and one thing I want to click into as you say that internet and the web browser is a good digital space where agents are more so interacting. And internet, as we know, has, it's really not been super long since Windows Explorer was on your computer. And those were all meant for humans. All the UI, UX were meant for humans. Do you see any fundamental shift that will happen with the internet or with browsers moving forward as more agents are becoming the fundamental main users and players? And has there been any challenges or fun little things you guys have noticed as your agents are interacting with the internet today?
Yeah, so our browser acting agent is called Navigator, and we named it after Netscape Navigator, which was the first mainstream publicly available browser. But you're absolutely right that the web has become more sophisticated, but was always meant for human consumption. So it is rendering information in pixel space for humans to consume, and it is expecting humans to do button clicks and actions. There is maybe a head of the distribution where that it is economically valuable, and people have developed APIs, and that's what today your hackathon, everybody's developing skills and what they really want to talk to digital surfaces through APIs. But people forget that there's a long tail of the web that does not have APIs available, that is only accessible to humans through browsers. And that can get unlocked through agents that can navigate their own browsers. And that is something that is going to take a long time because people have been building web technologies for a while, but trying to re-architect that entire infrastructure. As a concrete example, there's about 20,000 to 30,000 school districts in the US. Each school district has a website and they maintain on their own. They post everything from class schedule to their teams to procurement information. If you wanted to answer the simple question, is a school district in the US buying laptops right now? There is no API that will answer that question. Those people are still scanning PDFs, uploading it on their web pages, and making that information available. that information is available to humans if they go to that website. There are no MCP servers coming.
Yes,
No
yes.
MCP
Nothing that
servers
can
coming.
automatically connect and engage with you.
But you can scale browser acting agents that will open all of those websites and do that.
I think it's also interesting to, like, the whole attention economy on the internet has been built around the assumption that it is human eyeballs that are looking at the internet, right? Like ads being served and all of those things make sense because we are online. And so what happens in a world where agents are the primary drivers of action on the web and there's sort of fewer and fewer human eyeballs looking at these websites, I think that, I don't know what the answers are, but it's sort of fascinating to think about that. Like it starts being that right now there are sellers agents on the internet, right? Like sellers are deciding what content gets served to me again in the context of ads and things like that. But now when I have my agent on the web interacting on my behalf, looking out for sort of what is important to me, that dynamic shifts. And I think that's going to be fascinating to watch how that evolves over the years. Another relevant point to sort of this human versus agents thing, when we first got started on building web agents, our thinking was that websites are rendered the way they are, to Dhruv's point, that they're rendered the way they are so that humans can consume them, so it's easy for humans to interact. But we're like, underneath it is machine code, right? It's the DOM, the HTML. And we're like, surely it's better for machines to just read that as opposed to sort of looking at the rendering of the website, because that's what humans, why does a machine need that? And so we started building our web agents thinking that's the more efficient way of doing it. But then we realized that that just doesn't scale. Every website is built differently. There's sort of JavaScript doing all sorts of funny things on different websites. You can't even see some of the elements. You don't know what's hidden versus not, where you're just going to spend a whole lot of time cleaning up and sort of parsing through all this different code across different websites to make it clean enough for models to inject. But that's just not scalable. If you do that for one website, 5 websites, 10 websites, that's fine. But if you want something that works broadly across the whole web, this is just not going to cut it. And so our models now are trained on just screenshots of websites. Our models are now consuming the website in the same way that humans do to decide what action to take next. And that is what we found to be more scalable for sort of general use across the board.
That's actually very interesting to think that the fundamental layers, that's the code, is not actually the best representation of the internet anymore. And it's really the visual UI, UX at the end of the day comes across from it. Yeah.
I think it gets back to that same distinction between the long tail and the head end. If you can talk to digital surfaces that are exposing APIs, CLIs, MCP servers, you should use that.
Mm-hmm.
But that long tail is heavy enough that it's valuable, and it's long enough that they're not going to have APIs available, and then they were designed for human consumption, so just act like a human. And in that sense, it's not like self-driving cars getting on roads. You could have instrumented roads and cordoned off lanes and said, this is just a different version of a train. But we don't do that because we don't want to change the infrastructure, or we can't change the infrastructure easily in California. The internet is a lot like that. There is a long mess out there. The only way to deal with it is like humans do.
So diving into like the computer vision aspect of seeing the screenshots and stuff like that, what are some unique points or techniques or insights you've gathered as you're scanning the UI UX of these different websites on those browsers? Or is there anything you've noticed that can really aid on top of just looking at the screenshots that you saved?
We've noticed an interesting mess.
A mess.
So we put out a blog post describing this. We called it the bitter lesson of web agents, which is similar to what Devi was alluding to, that there are some websites where there's actually 3 different versions of the website implemented in the JavaScript, and different ones are rendered one on top of the other depending on what the client configuration is. So if you actually read all the code, you would just be confused about what the hell is going on. There are some websites where whether or not it's a product website, e-commerce, whether or not that product is in stock does not become visible till a certain element of a drop-down list is clicked, and then that is just rendered on screen by computing from an inventory call. You wouldn't know that till you actually looked at the pixels.
Yeah.
And that's been an interesting insight and finding. And so, yeah, like I guess there's no other way of saying it, but that the web is a mess. It's a mess because no central party controls it. No central party builds it. So it's simultaneously an opportunity, but also then a challenge.
Yeah. How do you guys see Yutori compare with the different agentic browsers or different agent that's living on these browsers? I know a lot of startups are in this space. And what do you believe is perhaps the domain expertise you guys have from years of working in Meta and in academia, but what are some unique insights that Yutori offers that other competitors may not be able to offer?
Good.
So I think on the browser use model, what we were just talking about, the sort of the level of generality that our model supports with sort of a certain amount of reliability is not something that we found out there. And so the ones that are, so all of sort of the DOM-based models can be significantly cheaper because they're processing, right? It's not using vision, it's sort of LLM tokens. And so it can be significantly cheaper, but that will work well for narrow domains, and that's not going to give you reliability across the board. And so the sort of the relevant points of comparison for us are computer use models from Anthropic or OpenAI, like Opus 4.6, GPT 5.4, and there the model that we have sort of matches or slightly outperforms in accuracy while being significantly cheaper and significantly faster because our models are trained specifically for browser use. We're not trying to do anything else, and so our model can be smaller in addition to a few other things, and as a consequence also cheaper and faster. So that's sort of one competitive advantage that we have with this model that we've trained in-house for browser use. The other bit is we've built this entire agentic orchestration. So the product that we've put out is called Scouts, and Scouts monitor the web for anything that you care about. So if there's a product and you've been waiting for the price to drop, or you've been waiting for it to be back in stock, or if there's concert tickets that you're trying to track, flight price drops, any news about specific topics that you're interested in. If you're a sales team or a recruiter and you're looking for sort of lead generation on various things, you can set up Scouts to monitor for that, and you can say that let me know whenever this happens, and the sort of team of paralyzed agents will be out there monitoring the web for you 24/7 and will send you a notification whenever that happens. And so to be able to build, so this is, and Dhruv likes to give this analogy that like Scouts is basically an agent in a cron job, right? It's just running 24/7. So it's a for loop around an agent, and an agent is a for loop around an LLM, and then LLMs, right, are sort of for loops around tokens. And so this gets very expensive. Right?
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, so
and it seems like it's running for days on end and perhaps even weeks on end?
Exactly. And
Months.
A month.
Yeah.
Months.
And so to be able to, and it's generally available now.
Yes.
Right? So to be able to serve a product of this sort with high reliability while sort of not being ridiculously expensive is that it takes a lot in the agent orchestration stack that we've built to be able to make this possible. So that orchestration that we've built that across over 100 tools that are all of various different kinds. Some are high precision, some are high recall, very different, sort of very heterogeneous, and has access to this browser use model that we've trained in-house to orchestrate around all of this and sort of deliver a nice sort of summary of a report to the user for whatever it is that they were tracking is hard to do. That's not easy to pull off. And so those two things is I think where we shine in terms of the tech and in terms of the product that we put out there. So we have the prosumer product, which is called Scouts. People can try it out on Yutori.com. And we have an API offering, which is what a lot of the teams here will hopefully build on during the hackathon, that provides you with access to the browser use model, which is N1, a browsing API where you don't have to bring your own browser infrastructure. We provide it, and so you just give it a website and you say what is it that you're trying to get done, and everything else is taken care of. And then we have a research API that does sort of this broad and deep research across the web using the agentic stack that I just described. And finally, the scouting API, which is the sort of cron job, which is the monitoring service on top of the research API.
I'm kind of curious as like OpenClaw, and I talked to my different friends, a lot of them are setting up their own bots on like a Mac Mini to run apartment finding was the one I heard last night. It's hard these days in the Bay Area to find the perfect one with the correct price. do you guys feel like it is a more crowded market on, using your guys' web browsers versus engineers now starting to be able to set up some of their own little bots?
I think apartment finding is a use case that we find a lot of people coming to us for it as well, because apartment finding is one of those use cases where it's an urgent need. What you need is a top of the funnel expansion, and you have lots of criteria that you want to specify. Some of them fit into filters on websites, but a lot don't. So if you want to say, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, I'd like to be close to this area, but it's not exactly a zip code. It's between these streets. I would like good lighting. Maybe that's not a filter. I would have maybe, a nook or a corner for an office space. And modern layouts. Like you say a few things like that. Some of them, 2 to 3 bedroom, sure. There's a filter on apartments.com. You can just go click it. Maybe apartments.com has some limited APIs available, but largely, Zillow and apartments generally don't. And so you need a browser use agent, but you also need an agent to go read the description, because some information is captured in the description. Some information is captured just in the photographs. Like, does the living room get good lighting or not? Maybe the person mentioned it listing it. Maybe they didn't mention it, but it's in the photograph. So you're gonna have to see it.
Yeah.
Some of this you can build. Like, I think living in the Bay Area, we forget that most people don't want to buy a Mac Mini and install OpenClaw for their apartment hunting. Think a busy parent.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go to another country. Think a busy parent living on the East Coast. They're not going to install OpenClaw. What they want is a personal assistant that just does this and 10,000 other things.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you have available APIs and people are using it, and as long as we're talking about building, I want to hear a little bit on how have you engaged perhaps with the teams today in AGI Clouds, and how have they really used your guys' APIs, models to build something cool or anything interesting or out of the blue or not expected, and that's what we always like to hear, something out of the box.
So today might be a bit too early because we haven't seen what people end up building. But in some of the previous hackathons, somebody built a Bloomberg terminal for prediction markets.
Based on
our APIs. That core idea, which we linked to from our Twitter, and we awarded them a prize, so please go check them out. But their core idea was, there are lots of prediction markets. Some of them move significantly based on publicly available information, but those prediction markets aren't so efficient that by the time you read that information, it's already been priced in. So some prediction markets are about, whether the US will invade Iran, how long will that government survive, so on. You could actually set up a monitoring service. You could actually ask agents to do this as well, and I built a similar version of this over the break, where you ask an LLM to look at a prediction market and tell you what are news items that are relevant to this. Not what the news is, but what should I be tracking if I'm interested in, let's say, will the US invade Iran? You come to Yutori and you say, please set up a scout. Let me know anytime there is any news or information that is relevant. Any news, but also chatter on Reddit, Iran probably is not going to be relevant to hacker news, but you could imagine more tech-leaning surfaces. And please ping this webhook anytime there's any information. So using our APIs have just converted the web into an RSS feed, right? Anytime something happens, you will get a notification. And at the other end of that is you collecting that information. That's the Bloomberg terminal aspect of it. Something has changed. That can inform your trading strategy. There's someone on the team that posted internally on our Slack that they made some money betting on prediction markets using the predictions from scouts, because you can also, because we are not building a search engine or an index, we actually have an agentic product, you can ask the agent not just to give you the news, but also tell you to look at the call sheet price and tell you whether it thinks it should move up or down based on this news. So you could do automated trading. I don't recommend it. It's not investment advice, but it is possible.
Awesome. one thing I do want to follow up as you're talking about different projects and these really, really cool like prediction market things and people seeming to make a little monetary gains from scouts and Yutori is, as judges today, what do you hope to, engage with the AGI community in? What are some criteria you have for the projects that these builders, hackers will present to you in a few hours?
But I think I don't have a checklist, but what I often look for are the kind interesting ideas that are not so out there that they can't, the technology isn't ready to support them, but not already built in as features of existing things. So the kind of thing that I mentioned, a Bloomberg terminal for prediction markets, it's got all the right aspects of it in the sense that the technology is getting there where it can support it. There's clearly a demand because people are interested in prediction markets. So there's a certain nugget of creativity. There's a sense of timing. There's some sophistication. The level of sophistication that people can aspire to in a 5-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour hackathon has gone up because of coding agents, but still there is limited time for experimentation. So I'd say some of those factors that would.
Yeah, I think similar. Creative ideas, executed well, working demos, which with coding agents is very much feasible in the context of hackathons, where it feels like this is useful, this is delightful. But if someone wanted to build a company around this, they could go and do that next. Something that's directionally aligned with that.
And I think hackathons that like AGI House sponsors now is being really accelerated by all of these different coding agents and you guys being able to offer like cool models. I'm personally really excited to see, the finalists that you guys are going to pick tonight and I'm excited to see their working demo in just a few hours. So I want to shift gears into a very interesting question, a little bit not technical at all. What is it like being founders of and then being married together? How is the working dynamic? It seems like you guys have been working together or around in both Meta and the academia for a while. So I'd love to hear a little bit on that.
Yeah. We've worked together the whole time we've known each other. We met in grad school at new student orientation.
Wow.
We had the same PhD advisor. We've had the same employer 19 out of the 20 years we've known each other. Our desks have been next to each other. Our offices have been next to each other.
Seems like it's meant to be.
We've collaborated on and off in cycles across the whole time. It's almost like we haven't known it any other way. I think some things that we do to kind of keep it sane is we usually have clarity on who has the last word on something. So like on research projects when we were collaborating, a lot of projects in academia, even a lot of the work that we had at Meta often had you might write a paper about it or something like that. And then there's a last author on the paper, right? And so it was clear that whoever's going to be the last author has the final word on it. So there's you can't debate endlessly. At some point, someone can sort of draw the line there. I don't know if there's any other.
I think we both appreciate the high degree of shared context. Neither one of us, it's a very common experience to come back from work and describe your day. The other person wasn't there, they don't know. That's not an experience we've had.
You guys have full shared context on everything.
And it comes with its pros and cons. It's an interesting life.
Okay, so happy. It sounds like it's a 1 + 1 greater than 2 situation with both of you. And to kind of wrap us together, since you're such a union, what should we expect from Yutori moving forward? We know Scouts is the first consumer product that you mentioned. Is there going to be a number 2, number 3 that we can see, and maybe you'll bring them back to the AGI house in the future?
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of stuff in the pipeline. So Scouts right now is read only, right? It doesn't buy, book anything for you. It lets you know when something happens, and it monitors just the public web.
Okay.
Right, so that's where it is. And going from here, there's a whole bunch of things that are coming. One is task completion, where it doesn't just let you know that the price has dropped. If you've asked it that whenever this happens, go ahead and buy it. It can do that for you. The second is access not just to the public web, but ways in which you can authenticate these agents to go behind auth walls. So if you log into something and then set up an agent, it will be able to do things on your behalf with you logged in. So like knowing who your connections on LinkedIn are. It's like if any of my connections post about blah, let me know, that kind of a thing. It can do that. So task completion, going behind auth walls, intersecting with your own user context. So you'll be able to connect your email, your calendar, your Slack, your Notion, your GitHub, all of these things, and being able to have these agents start becoming more and more of your chief of staff, where it can now proactively notice what are useful things it can do for you and start making progress on that in the background, in a secure way, in a controlled way, instead of a sandboxed way, is another thing that's coming soon. And so all of this is in the pipeline in the coming weeks.
Wow.
I just want to double click one last thing.
Yes.
This is related to an earlier question you had asked about agentic browsers.
Yes.
I think right now the world is in a very weird state where there are two alternatives. You can run a browser or a remote computer on a cloud machine, but then it doesn't have access to your logged in information unless you are willing to reveal it in plain text or over a VNC server. Like you don't want to trust a third-party device and have your credentials be there.
Yes.
The other alternative is you either have a Chrome extension or an agentic browser, but then it takes over your browser. Like when you are doing something, you don't want to watch an agent click buttons right in front of you. Like, oh, I do. Like I want to switch tabs and like, why do I have to have this agentic theater in front of me? Just go do the work. The reason why people build agentic browsers is because your credentials stay on your machine, you're already logged in, we can act like you. Both of those solutions are frankly bad solutions, like temporary solutions. There is a third solution which gives you best of both worlds. Your data stays local. We do not block your workflow. You can inspect work and see it happening if you want to, but unlike agentic browsers, you're not forced to look at it while it's working. That solution is coming. I won't tell you what that is, but there is a way to meet all of these constraints, and that will be very soon.
Will you promise to come back here so I can talk to you again when the solution comes? Can we pinky promise this one?
Sure.
Okay, great. So thank you guys so much today. It was actually very, very insightful as we're seeing, the Hackathon being around agents, you guys creating so many workflows from models layer to the application layer to something we can see and touch. Excited to see what comes next for Yutori.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
She's done.